Record on this computer. Noah, send me an email address that I can send a code to. I'm going to keep that open. And tell me what, pick a month. Pick a month that is not June. Choice of 11 months. What's it going to be? May? Okay. Got to go back to last May. Okay. We only have 2 choices remaining. Okay. What do we got? Ooh. Something with animals. It's called Indie Simulation Strategy. Or deck building card battle.
I guess deck building.
Okay. No, I will not take a game from you. I have too many games. That's why I give them away all the time. Copy. Okay. Deck building. Gift to friend. Send an email. Remember, this email is coming from Humble Bundle, not from me. So if you see Humble Bundle and think it's spam, it's not. It's a game. You are now the proud owner of something called Neoverse. Neoverse is a beautiful, fantastic game consisting of adventures with thrilling challenges. Well, that narrows it down. It is a strategic action roguelite deck building game that will test the player's skill, start an adventure with unique heroes to save the world along various timelines. Also, I would point out that every single one of the heroes that you can choose is some hot anime babe. So there's that. It is available for both Windows and Mac, but not Linux. So you're out of luck if you want to play it on Linux. But that is your game of the day. It is gifted. Who did I gift this to? Oh, okay. Bam, bam. Closing up Humble Bundle for the day. Okay. Next. There is no class on Monday. Woo! 3-day weekend. It is Patriots Day. If you're not from Massachusetts, you don't understand what Patriots Day is, but here in Massachusetts, Patriots Day is a time-honored tradition that commemorates, April 19th, commemorates the Battle of Concord and Lexington. And in pre-COVID days, that battle was reenacted at Concord Bridge. Also celebrated in Maine. Cool. Go figure. Yay, Maine. Somehow it skipped New Hampshire and Vermont and just went straight to Maine. Maine used to be part of Massachusetts, so there you go.
That's fair.
So every year I used to say, oh, I'm going to go watch the reenactment of the big battle. But it turns out that battle was like at 5:30 in the morning and they reenacted at 5:30 in the morning. So
God.
I never.
Oh, that's why.
But
I get why the original one was at 5:30. Why keep it there?
Well, because I don't know, they're reenacting the actual battle on the anniversary of the battle. Because the whole point, one if by land, two if by sea. That's the whole Paul Revere thing. He was running around in the dark, raising the militia. See, you think it's a games storytelling class, but it's really an American Revolution history class. He was running around rousing the militia in the middle of the night, and they're all running to the armory at Concord, and the British are coming by. You know, everybody remembers one if by land, two if by sea, but no one remembers the answer. Was it one if by land or two if by sea? What was it?
Pretty sure it was the 2, wasn't it?
I don't know. Was it one if by land? Oh, there's a lot of what does one if by land and two if by sea was coined by American poet Henry Longfellow in his poem Paul Revere's Ride. It was a reference to the single, on the verge of the American Revolutionary War. Did the British, let's see, did the British come by land or sea? The two lanterns meant that the British troops planned to row by sea across the Charles River to Cambridge rather than march by land out Boston Neck. So it was by sea, but it wasn't really by sea. It was just rowing across the Charles. So you are correct, sir, in that it was by sea. You got off from school in Philly. Oh, when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Is that similar to Patriots Day? Not really. They stopped giving people off when the Patriots won the Super Bowl because it happened so often that they couldn't give that many days off. So there. I so don't care about football. But the interesting thing, my wife used to work in Copley Square, and she would get off every time the Patriots won the Super Bowl because they'd have the victory parade through down Boylston Street, and it would be impossible to get into work that day. So she'd just take it off. That was before we all learned to work from home, and now we all work from home. Still skip to go to the parades, of course. I went to the ticker tape parade. I believe it was the last ticker tape parade because there is no more ticker tape. In 1986, when the Mets beat the Boston Red Sox in the World Series, that was the Buckner flub. And I was down on Wall Street, and they threw all sorts of paper out the windows of Wall Street. And honestly, I was on the sidewalk, and somebody threw a bunch of gigantic phone books out the window from way up high, and they landed on a car and like crushed the ceiling of the car in. So, and we're like, "Hey, I'm walking down here." So as good New Yorkers do. Parade, we just had riots. Okay, so no school on Monday. Enjoy the 3-day weekend. Also, I posted in the Discord, but I'm going to say it here for those of you who do not look at the Discord. And who would do that? Somebody pointed out that the two examples of D&D adventures that I had in the D&D adventure assignment cost $3 a pop. And honestly, I put them there probably last year, maybe before that. And they didn't cost $3. So I went and found a couple that were free, or they are not free. They are pay what you want. If you want to pay them $0, that is up to you. Each of those adventures is very short. They're 6 pages or less, so they make a good example for this assignment. And the apple fritter one, if you look at the maps and the art, I'm like looking at it and going, this could be a submission for this assignment, because the let's just say, not exact, like Gnome Improvement looks a tad more professional than this one that you can download for free from the website. Just no judgment. They have pictures, they have maps, they work. But it seems like somebody's very much been just this is their attempt at getting out there. So, and they're both short. They kind of combine some of the sections that I tell you to do. There's, like I say, to do a background and then a hook. And they seem to just say, you know, before the adventure, you should know, and then get into the adventure. But it's mostly there. It would work. And I think the apple dumpling, well, the cursed apple dumpling one, I was like, oh, good. It's kind of like a comedy, talky one, but it seems like you're fighting cultists and stuff. So, you can turn anything into a fight. Somebody else asked, is it okay to write an entire D&D adventure where you don't fight? Yes. There's more than one way to solve conflict. You should have conflict, right? Some obstacle for the players to overcome, but you don't need to have them, you know, stick pointy sticks at each other if you don't want. In fact, one year I got a really good one where it was final exams for wizard school. And that was the whole thing, is that you're a bunch of wizards, and these are the final exams, and so there are a bunch of tests for wizards. Also, I didn't say it in the adventure, in the assignment, but if you are, well, everyone should say, you know, title of adventure, right? The Misfits foot, right? An adventure for 4 third-level characters, right? Or an adventure for 4 first-level characters. I'm going to assume it's first level unless you tell me differently, right? So if you're writing, if you're experienced, like, I don't stop you from writing your 20th level adventurer. If you're doing so, make sure you tell me in the title, an adventure for 4 20th level adventurers or characters, just so I know, because that way I will keep that in mind. Okay, any other questions, thoughts, problems? No. Okay. So I want to go back to Stanley Parable because we didn't get to talk about it much. This is written, right? Somebody wrote a script for this. Probably Davey Reedon. It's well, let me ask you the big thing. If you don't play games, and I sit you down in front of the Stanley Parable, are you gonna think it's funny? Are you gonna get it?
Probably not.
Probably not. Why?
Maybe. It's just a lot of it's like references, and it's just kind of supposed to be just kind of slightly off from norm for video games humor kind of thing.
So
If you don't know what they're trying to do, it can kind of just be like, okay, I'm just following the guy. Okay, I won. Okay.
does it? It's not like a parody of something else, is it? Or is it? Maybe it is.
I would argue maybe some of the Half-Life games, but because it has is just like the moving around and kind of some of the instructions and stuff, maybe, but otherwise, Yeah.
It's like it doesn't make overt references to, I don't know, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, right? It's not like you have to have played the sniper level in Modern Warfare to understand a reference. Or maybe it does, and I didn't get it. No. It doesn't say goof on Mario. It's not specific games, but it is games, right? It's the idea of playing video games, and it's video games, not games in general, not chess and board games and all that. It's video games, right? So things we take for granted, right? I think if you understand the idea role of a narrator, you'd be able to understand the humor behind it. Okay. I don't know. I like see you guys, you're young enough that your parents may have played video games. Did your parents play video games? No? Yes? Eh, eh. Um, like
My
I think
mom
of
had a Game Boy Color with Tetris, and that is about it.
okay. So no. I get a lot of that. My dad played video games. But he only ever played Total War or something like that. My dad used to play Sierra games over and over. He'd play my dad's go-to is NHL and Rocket League. I get a lot of my dad plays Age of Empires and he's been playing it since 1997, the same one. My dad introduced me to WoW. My grandfather somehow plays more games than my dad. Only some 70s and 80s arcade stuff, so Asteroids, Tempest, etc. My dad has been playing Lord of the Rings online since it first came out. Woo! I stream Dungeons and Dragons online, and we just celebrated our 10th anniversary of playing Dungeons and Dragons online in February. A lot of
Jennifer,
Forza
like-
Horizon. So you're a lot of dads playing video games, not so much moms.
Jennifer DeWinter like just mentioned to me that y'all were considering hiring, I think, like a writer from Lotro.
Yeah.
And I like fangirled so hard. I was so excited. Oh my gosh.
Well, that's the second one. So before COVID, we were interviewing for the writer, and another writer from Lotro applied and was in the running. So yeah, I guess they fired all their writers. Oops.
Oof.
Yeah. My mom plays, my dad thinks video games are lame. Okay. My mom plays an obscene amount of Assassin's Creed. Wow. I don't, you can't really hear. Let's look at the poster. Look at the poster. Oh, I got that poster in 2005 at E3, the year before the first Assassin's Creed came out. Very exciting. I was an Assassin's Creed fanboy before there were Assassin's
David,
Creed.
I need you to define 100% there.
No, I did
need
not
it.
bother.
No.
I am not a collectathon person.
100% Breath of the Wild. No, I just no.
Nah.
I like the game, but 900. 900.
She got them all. She got all the seeds.
Why?
She collected basically one of every item.
Oh my
It was insane. She showed me, and I was like, "How did you do this? How do you have this much time on your hands?"
I just ask her to speedrun. The difference between the speedruns is so
God, I want to
funny.
learn how to speedrun that game.
Working
It's
on
so good.
100%ing all of Zelda's costumes.
So I find it interesting now. I've screwed up my camera horribly. Okay. Nope.
I've only done a challenge run of it.
Okay, there we go.
900.
So the biggest response I get out of you is asking if your parents play games, which is hilarious.
Very in-depth question.
I just got a survey from PAX that basically said, would you be willing to pay for PAX Online? How much would you be willing to pay? What's too much and what's not enough? And then at the end, it said, like surveys do, we're just going to collect some demographic stuff. Are you male or female? What is your age range? Right. And, it was like 16 to 25, 25 to 35. Well, it was a bunch, but the last one was like 35 to 44. And I'm like, I'm 56. I'm not on here. I want to push the older than that button. Where's the older than that button? And they didn't expect old people like me to be in the survey, I guess. So all of your parents who don't play games, not the ones who do 100% Breath of the Wild, that take them out of the survey. If you put the Stanley Parable in front of the non-game playing people, would they think it was funny?
I don't know.
Would
I think you
would they play it?
My mom wouldn't.
Probably not. I think my mom would be very confused. I sincerely doubt it. Did you think it was funny?
Yeah.
Probably depends on how much they like to break the rules. Yeah, okay. I mean, there's a certain amount of let's make the narrator mad fun to be had. It's a funny game, right? It's generally funny. I don't know if it's a laugh out loud funny kind of game, but it's like ha ha ha. Oh, I see what you did there. It's a smiling kind of game. So and the idea, so here's the thing. It's a charming one. Thank you, Sean. It's like a breathe heavily for a second funny. Okay. So the people who don't play games playing the Stanley Parable, air coming out of nose funny. would they even think to play it a second time? Think about this. Your mom, your dad, whoever doesn't play games, just does what the narrator tells you, and then the narrator says, "Congratulations, you won."
If they're following the rules, they definitely would not play it a second time.
Right. And then they'd be like, "Why did you want me to play this? I did what he told me, and then he told me I won. That was stupid." Right? I mean,
well, okay, to be fair, non-gamers probably wouldn't call it stupid. They probably would assume they didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And they'd walk away like, "Oh, cool.
I guess.
Thanks. Yeah.
Whatever. Nerd.
All right, back to never playing video games."
Yeah. Go. I get this is what you guys are laughing about. Okay. So okay.
My mom would probably say, I guess he just had to be there.
Yeah. I don't get it. I don't speak that language, right? So honestly, there's a name for this. It's called an affinity group. It's in social science. An affinity group is basically a group of people that have shared language and experience that get each other's references and in jokes, and it can be as small as a couple, right? If you've ever, been part of a couple, you have your own like in jokes, right? But it can be as large as an interest, right? I'm a bird watcher, and I'm not a bird watcher, but I'm a bird watcher. We all, did you get that in your book? Did you I just saw a thing. Are you sure? Is it confirmed? Whatever it is that bird watchers speak. Earlier I dipped my toes into football, and I quickly said I know nothing about football, because I was afraid that you would start talking football to me and I wouldn't understand you, because I generally don't understand football. I enjoy going to baseball games occasionally, mostly to sit in the sun and eat hot dogs and Cracker Jack. I understand the basic rules, but beyond that, I'm not going to get on AM sports radio and argue about the latest trade or whatever. So we are an affinity group of people who play video games. We speak each other's language. When you say they 100% did BOTW, I understood that and went, no way, right? You all understood that, how difficult that would be, right? And let's face it, lots of people would go, you 100%ed BOT, what the hell does that mean? So we speak each other's language, and Stanley Parable expects you to understand that language, right? It's the same language that we speak to each other. The idea that you get an ending and you start over and you try something different, exploring a possibility space. Remember Trumbus, right? Good old Trumbus I'm not going to draw, but the decision trees. When we get a big decision tree, one of the things what we do is we explore alternate decisions to see all of the space of the game, and that's called exploring the possibility space. Stanley expects you to try different things. It expects you to disobey the narrator. It expects you to go off in ever more obscure paths, right? So first I go to the right, and I go across. I use the platform to go across, and I continue down there. But then the next time I jump off the platform halfway through to get that cross bridge, and that's more difficult, and it takes me to different endings. So it expects me to explore. It is at heart an exploration game. The thing about making that kind of game, and the difference between D&D and say Stanley Parable, D&D, we have this human being who is the world, right? So if you get instructions to go to this cottage, and you say, you know what, let's not go to the cottage, let's go somewhere else. Your DM is like, oh, geez. Okay, I gotta figure this out, right? So I figured out. I'm gonna tell you. You know how my campaign, all the players were like, yeah, we don't want to go after the MacGuffin anymore. We're just gonna go home, right? Screw that. It seems dangerous to keep chasing that thing. There are bad people who want to shoot us. We're not going to do that, right? And I was like, yeah, this happened. So, and I at the time I was just like, that's the adventure. We can stop, right? Here's the thing: that I had worked in that they were supposed to be bodyguards for these 4 Mormon 17-year-olds who are going on mission, right? You know how Mormons, when they're teenagers, they go to some, they can go anywhere, basically to convert people to Mormonism, right? They all put on their, have you ever seen the Book of Mormons, right? Book of Mormons, they go to Africa and they're converting people to Mormonism. They're not really, they're just learning about the world. So yeah, because people are happy with their lives that don't, yeah, exactly. So their whole thing is like, our job isn't to chase this thing. Our job is to, we've been hired by the father of one of these kids to make sure that they don't get killed out in the world. So we're supposed to deliver them to this other place. Let's do that. Right. So here's what I'm going to do. This is perfect. I figured this out. I was thinking about it. The 4 boys are going to be like, look, we know our parents hired you to look after us. We've known for weeks and we just didn't want to say anything. We like you guys. You seem like your heart is in the right place. But here's the thing. We're not going on mission anymore. We think that God has put us in this situation to save the solar system. And we are taking on the role of going after the MacGuffin. And we're going to save the universe. And look, if you guys want to, go home, that's fine. Go home. We're going to do it ourselves. Yes, we're 17-year-old Mormons with no training in weapons and very little
yes, the
life
classic
skills.
Guilt trip. I see.
But
At that point, they're 17-year-old morons.
well, no, they're motivated.
They know what they're doing. They're the smartest people around. I don't know what
Right?
you're
We're
talking
going to
about.
do
They
this.
know.
If you want to come along and help us, we'd appreciate it. But we don't expect it. Keep yourselves safe. We understand you want to live a long, full life. Go do that. And I just see them going, you son of a bitch. You're gonna guilt us. We have to keep these idiots alive.
The perfect plan.
So I think that'll be great. Anyway, so that's kind of the wonderful thing about D&D. So I mean, big picture, the first assignment where you're writing with a partner, remember how you did that? Because you did that. You wrote with a partner. And each of you told a bit of the story. D&D is the same thing. It's you're telling a story with a partner, except in the case of the D&D, one side is the DM, and your partner as the DM is those other 4 people, right? And everybody gets a little bit of a say in what happens in the story, and you keep going. And we have this framework that we kind of follow, but we stray from it. We do other things, right? So that's really hard to do in a video game, because if you say, I'm going to go this way instead of the way you want me to go, more than likely you hit an invisible wall, right? Or if during a conversation you want to say something, well, you have 3 choices, right? Because it's a choose, you can say this or this or this. And if you have a good conversation skill, you can say the 4th thing, right? So video games can't improv. Exactly, Nathan. But here's the thing. When you feel like you're improving and the video game rolls with it, that's when you go, ah! Right? When you feel like you're doing something unexpected, and the video game sees you, and that may be as simple as like way back when I was playing Asheron's Call 2. I was a big Turbine fan, I guess. I killed myself climbing up this mountain, and it was clear you're not supposed to climb this mountain. This mountain is way too steep. But I did the whole Skyrim thing. They had the Skyrim thing of like moving sideways up the mountain the way you're not supposed to go.
The Skyrim thing is.
You know what the Skyrim thing is, right?
We all know what it is.
Yeah.
So jump up the mountain. They don't count as obstacles.
Right. So I got up this mountain that was really the edge of the world. And at the top of the mountain, there was a little platform, a little kubi, whatever it is. And there was a skeleton there and a book. And the book was the diary of this mountain climber who obviously was the skeleton. And I was like, they knew some idiot would spend hours climbing this mountain for no reason. And they put this up here for me to find. This is awesome. Right. Same thing happens with Stanley Parable over and over again. You think you're being original. You think you're doing something that no one else has thought of. And there's the narrator going, I see you. Right? I see what you're doing. Oh, you're trying this. Okay. Don't do that. Oh, you're doing it anyway. Okay. Well, you'll be sorry. Don't say I didn't warn you. Right? Over and over again. Every which way you can go, the narrator sees you. You think you're being original by just sitting there in your office, and they've anticipated that. Right, exactly. That's kind of the fun of Stanley Parable is you think you're being original, and the designers have gotten out ahead of you because they've already thought of that. Which can be part of me says that's depressing, right? Because then there is no original thought. Everything has already been thought of. But at the same time, I haven't gotten all 19 endings. Have you? Has anybody gotten all 19 endings in Stanley Parable? What? I'm waiting for someone. I 100%ed. I speed run.
I have not, because I'm not. I haven't.
Yeah, the 4-hour baby one.
It's a little.
Somebody did it. It's on YouTube.
I'm good.
Somebody did it. So that's and honestly, it's fun to see, well, okay, if I do this really weird thing, what are they going to say? Right? That's the fun of Stanley Parable. Okay, so Stanley Parable came out in 2011, so it's 10 years old at this point. Jeez Louise. And a good portion of it's interesting that so many of you have played it before, because so many of these this was an indie darling when it came out. It came out as a source mod, and it was free. I played it then, and I was like, "That's great. That was cool." And then they said, "We're gonna improve on it and sell it." And my reaction at the time was, "Wait, I just played it for free. Why am I going to give you money to play the same thing? What?" And then they put out a demo, and even if you've already played Stanley Parable, download and play the demo, because it is totally different. It has nothing to do with what's in the actual game. It is the demo. I mean, the environments are still the same, but there's all new narrator stuff. It knows it's a demo. Like, the demo knows it's a demo, and it says, "Welcome to the demo." And it's fun. So the demo came out, and everybody kind of went, oh, okay, it's going to be all new. And it wasn't quite all new, but there was a lot of it. And they're still working on it. I just got that email that said, we're going to put out the Ultra Super Edition in first it was 2019, then 2020, and now it's 2021. So fingers crossed it'll come out. So, okay. Stanley Parable comes out. It is a media darling, sells millions. Let's see. Can I just, how many copies did Stanley Parable sell? Stanley Parable has sold over 1 million copies. There were a bunch of stories in 2014. Can sell over 1 million copies. Developer Davey Reedon revealed the sales figure on Twitter earlier this week. In 2014, it's continued to sell, so I guess it's sold many more than that. Today, Stanley Parable has sold 1 million copies. Thank you. So that's amazingly successful for an indie game. And Davey Reedon became kind of a famous indie success story, right? Suddenly, hey, would you like to give a GDC talk? Hey, will you be on a podcast? Well, actually, 2011, I don't know, podcasts? Yeah, there were podcasts in 2011. Suddenly he's famous among certain circles. I mean, your mother, who doesn't play games, doesn't know who the hell Davey Reedon is. But probably most people don't know. If you say, hey, do you know who Davey Reedon is? They'd be like, nah. The guy who made Stanley Parable. Oh, the guy who made Stanley Parable. Oh, okay. Right. So he gets famous. And with fame comes expectation. Well, what are you going to do next? What's in the future for Davey Reedon? And honestly, Davey Reedon does not handle fame well. believe it or not, the skills that it takes, it's like most voice actors pre-critical role. Yeah. The skills that it takes to become a source modder and eventually make your own little indie game are not the same skill sets you need to be a famous game designer. Peter Molyneux has a different skill set than most game designers, right? He's really good at talking and marketing and selling. So yeah, it is. Making games is mostly a solitary activity, right? Especially if you're one of two people making the game, you only have one other person to talk to most of the time. So he gets famous and he doesn't handle it well. He has bouts of depression. And then 4 years later, he comes out with the beginner's guide. And the beginner's guide is a very different game. I mean, is it? Still a narrative driven, narrated game, right? The big difference is there's not this omniscient narrator of Stanley Parable, but there's, hi, my name's Davey Reedon, and I want to talk to you about my friend Coda, right? And it's a walk through a bunch of unpublished, I hesitate to call them all games. We start with what, a Counter-Strike map. We have weird unfinished things. We have odd bits and bobs from all over the place. And the big revelation at the end, spoiling it, but you had plenty of time to play this, is that Davey Reedon is an unreliable narrator. That Davey Reedon lies. That everything he's told you in this game is not necessarily the truth, and that just as he changes reality in his words by lying, he has changed the games themselves by modding them. And sometimes he's upfront about it. And he says, you know, there's this giant maze with invisible walls, and if you ever touch the invisible walls, you get teleported back to the beginning of the maze, and you have to start all over, and it will take you hours to get through this maze. So let's fast forward and go to the other side of the maze, right? And that's a quality of life kind of hack, right? Or is it? I mean, because if he wants to express his friend Coda's body of work, that's part of it. You're supposed to sit in jail for an hour, but screw that. Yes, exactly. But he has more subtle things. The lamp, the light, what now the word, it's the street light. That's put in by Davey Reedon every time you see it. And it's kind of an in-joke with level designers, because one of the easiest ways to tell people where they should go is to put a big lamp, put a big light there, and leave everything else dark. And so you head towards the light. But if Coda, in every case, has not put that light in, then every time you've headed towards the light, you're following Davey Reedon's instructions instead of Coda's. That's a different experience. Suddenly we're in Davy Reedon's game and not Coda's game, even though he gives credit to Coda. Big question. I'm way out of time. Is Coda real? No, says Nathan. Is that? I don't think so. I think it's him. Somebody in the other class said they heard Davy Reedon on a podcast say that Coda wasn't real. And I came back with, we know Davy Reedon lies. I've seen at
That's
least
fair.
one.
The lies part is fair.
Yeah. I've seen an
Doesn't have to
article.
tell the truth in a podcast. You could just say it, just kind of keep it interesting.
Yeah. I've seen an article that was like, hey, I used to hang out with Davy Reedon when we were both source modders. We were part of this local gaming group that we all exchanged our mod maps. And I kind of think I'm Coda. And Reedon denies it. All of you legally have to tell me if you're an undercover cop. Yeah. So a lot of it, I will grant you that I guarantee you that Davy Reedon made every little mod game in the beginner's guide. Because there would be all sorts of problems with publishing and making money from the beginner's guide if he had actually stolen all those games. But was there a friend of Davy Reedon's who made a whole bunch of modded levels and showed him around and never published anything? It's quite possible. Don't know. Does it matter? Well, writers all the time use bits and pieces of real people. It may be as simple as speech pattern, or you know, my uncle always used to pick his nails with Burnside sideburns. He always used to pick his nails with a pocket knife, and so I make a character who uses a pocket knife to pick his nails. Is that character my uncle? No, not really. He's a gangster in New York, but that's a nice, cool thing that makes it feel real.
Treebeard from Lord of the Rings, his like how he talked was kind of based on how C.S. Lewis talked, because him and Tolkien were friends, and it was said that whenever Lewis was like going down a hall to teach a course, you could hear just this big booming like kind of thing. So that's what Treebeard's like vocals are based off of.
Cool.
Yeah.
So writers steal all the time from real life. The idea that I would like to explore the work of a somewhat fictional friend is pure Davy Reedon. But the like social media being what it is, there was an outcry like, how could he steal Coda's games and lie about them and show them to us when Coda didn't want them to be shown ever? What kind of monster is Davy Reedon? And everybody, I don't know, I just rolled my eyes at that. Please, he's telling a story, and whether there is a real Coda or there isn't, I'm sure he made all those games himself. Beginner's Guide isn't funny. It is philosophical. It is interesting. It is contemplative. It brings up real questions that are interesting to consider, like how does fame affect people? What do you do with depression? Where is games criticism in the spectrum of art? All sorts of things. Dr. Langeskhov, I'm 7 minutes late. Dr. Langeskhov is funny. And if two people made Stanley Parable and it's philosophical and funny, and then those two people went off and made their own games, and one is philosophical and one is funny, it makes you think, oh, you're the funny guy and you're the philosophical guy, right? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? I'm sure Davey Reedon writes jokes too. But again, we have a narrator. This time it's a stage manager. The whole idea that every video game has a backstage and that people are waiting to come on stage in the video game, just like a theater, is a fun one. This again has the hey, could you go do this thing? And when you don't do it, your narrator is like, no, really, I really need you to push that button. Could you push that button? No, oh, you push the other button. Don't don't do that, right? That's all sorts of fun because it's fun to transgress, to be the bad person, to do what you're not supposed to do. And like you let the tiger out and the previous player gets mauled and it's horrible. Is all sorts of fun. This is a much lighter game, but we have three kinds of narrators. We have an omniscient narrator, an unreliable narrator, and in this case, a not omniscient, somewhat omniscient, but they don't know what you're going to do, and they don't know what's going to happen. It's kind of a put upon narrator. Anyway, I will let you go. There's no game. Wrong Dimension is a really good not game. There is no game. Wrong Dimension
There
is
is
a really
no game. There is no game. There's no game. There's the entire bit. And it's great.
Okay, so you guys, y'all have a great weekend. I will see you on Tuesday with a new Right Club. Okay.
All right. Later, Professor. Thank you.
Bye.